Hello! General Eugene Irwin is court-martialed and sent to a military prison. The man is a living legend. The stories of how he survived torture and did not leave his soldiers behind have spread wide. While everyone wonders why he was demoted, he himself only strives to live by the principles of honor that he adhered to in the army. And it quickly becomes clear that the local warden, Colonel Winter, lives by completely different rules. Despite his venerable age and lost respect, Irwin takes it upon himself to prove that he was given the highest rank for a reason. The military prison run by Colonel Winter is a real castle. It is located on a hill, has high walls and a garrison, and in the center of it is a flag, a symbol of power and law. The main problem about it is that it's easy to get inside and almost impossible to get out. And now this castle has the honor to contain not yet another rebellious soldier, but a legendary general.
The court-martial didn't put him over the edge, I guarantee you the shithouse will.
A week?
6 bundles.
The inmates, led by Yates, are betting on how long the famous newcomer will last here. The only belongings of General Eugene Irwin are pictures of his daughter and young grandson, and a military academy ring. Colonel Winter personally meets the general in his office, which is lavishly decorated. Among other things, Winter collects books on war, and one of them happens to be written by Irwin. The colonel asks the author to autograph it and walks off to get the book. The general examines the antique bullets and swords kept by the warden.
Any man with a collection like this is a man who's never set foot on a battlefield.
With the book in his hands, Winter hears the general call his collection hunks of metal that cause some poor bastard a world of pain. The man is hurt by this comment and tosses the book aside, lying that he couldn't find it. As he leaves the room, one of the prisoners, Aguilar, salutes the general. This angers Winter, and he reminds the man that criminals are stripped of their ranks, and it is forbidden to use army salutes here. Stuttering, the lad says that he was giving salute not to the prisoner, but to the colonel. Irwin is brought to his cell to the shouts of his cellmates, who are trying to find out what he's been sentenced for. Winters deliberately turns the prisoners against each other, so that he can have complete control over them. He leaves only one basketball for the huge crowd, so a fight breaks out in the yard. While Yates is collecting bets on who will win, Irwin watches the rampage from the sidelines. Winter watches closely too, and when a weapon on a rope appears in the thug's hands, the horn rings. This signals that everyone must get down on the ground, and when the enraged fighter refuses, he is knocked out with rubber bullets and carried away. After working in the laundry room, Irwin sees that the prisoners are building a wall of stones in the middle of the yard, another historic project of Winter's. Aguilar criticizes Beaupré's mortar. His father was a mason, and he knows that if they continue like this, the wall will fall apart.
I don't give a f if your dad built the pyramids. Whites were at the wall, period.
But the man doesn't care about that. He's slacking off to waste as little energy as possible. At lunch, Irwin is approached by his former soldier, Dr. Bernard, who complains about the mistreatment of the patients. This cruel handling sometimes even leads to deaths. But the general replies that he had already taken an unnecessary task in his old age and is now paying the price for his mistake. All he wants now is peace. Yates, a former helicopter pilot and now a bookmaker, also has a personal connection to Irwin. His father had survived captivity with the general, but the son doesn't consider his father a hero. At home, he was a different man than in the service. Later, Irwin is visited by his daughter, who couldn't see her father often because of his work and business trips to hotspots. They have nothing to talk about, but at least they're honest with each other. On another walk, Aguilar sees the general and salutes him again. Irwin assesses the gesture and learns that the guy had insulted his commander and was given 6 years in prison for it. The general says that to him, the Marine couldn't turn into a criminal in 5 seconds, and he still considers him a real soldier, as the guy performs the salute every time he sees him. Irwin tells him that the gesture dates back to the days of knighthood, when warriors' faces were covered by a helmet.
They would raise their visors and show their faces. It's like they're saying, "This is who I am."
The warden notices the troublemakers. When he was at the military academy, Irwin's name was held in high esteem, and now here he is, under Winter's authority.
Now here he is, commanding an army of one, the stuttering monkey.
Aguilar is ordered to stand and salute for 24 hours in the pouring rain. After seeing him, exhausted and shaking from the cold, Irwin approaches and orders him to lower his arm. To the guard's objections, the general replies that Aguilar does not deserve such punishment and gets hit with batons for him. A siren blares, and Winter appears outside. He politely asks the general to follow the local rules and not to set a bad example for the other prisoners. Irwin, on the other hand, quotes the prison statute, which states that physical punishment cannot continue until morning. To everybody's surprise, Winter agrees and even thanks the man for his remark. But the statute also says that the general must be physically punished as well for attempting to resist the guard's orders. The next day, Irwin is forced to carry boulders with his bare hands. Yates again takes bets on whether the man will make it through the day. Bernard tries to help and asks the guards to let the general take off his prison jumpsuit, the scars received by Irwin in his legendary battles in captivity, from which he was offered to be released, are revealed to the inmates.
They offered him a full release from stage 6. He said he wouldn't leave without his men.
Irwin is not going to ask Winter for mercy. With the last of his strength, he silently hauls all of the remaining stones, even after being tripped by Beaupre, who has bet against him. But the sun is still high, so the guards order him to bring the stones back. Irwin is sent to solitary confinement for the night, where Winter approaches him and tells him that the timid Aguilar has been jailed for mutilating his commanding officer with a hammer while under the influence of substances. When Irwin returns after serving his punishment, the prisoners greet him with a gesture of universal respect, drumming a rhythm on the cell bars. Yates also gives him the pack of cigarettes that Aguilar won from betting on him. But the non-smoking general commands him to distribute them to the other prisoners. Yates has heard stories of his father, whom the general helped survive captivity. But Irwin says the opposite was true. He prayed for death every day and only survived the torture because of the voices of his soldiers in nearby cells. The next day, Irwin goes to the prisoners, who have been ordered by Winter to build a wall out of stones that the general had to carry. For now, it is just a meaningless fulfillment of someone else's will, but Irwin offers to build something useful for themselves. They could build their own castle on the prison grounds, using Aguilar's knowledge. A common goal reduces tension in the team, and even the explosive Beaupre is willing to listen to the instructions of the stuttering foreman. Irwin supports the workers, especially Aguilar, who approaches the work with a particular enthusiasm. While they ask him to immortalize his name in stone, Winter is informed that the prisoners are breaking the prohibition and continuing to use the military ranks. The general has earned the rank of chief.
Anybody who was a captain is boss, sergeants are sport, privates pal.
The warden realizes that Irwin is creating his own little army and calls him to a meeting. He boasts that his harsh methods have resulted in absolutely no deaths among the prisoners and guards. Though Irwin knows this is a lie, Winter is not going to tolerate one more warden inside the prison and orders him to tear down the prisoner's project. A bulldozer drives out and Aguilar stands in its path. The siren orders him to lie down, but he does not obey and gets shot right in the temple for doing so. Bernard runs up to the guy, but only states his death. The prisoners decide to gather at the ruins of the castle and pay respects to their fallen friend. The general makes a speech and declares that the most honorable graves are not the grand monuments made of marble, but hastily crafted soldiers' graves.
A rifle driven into the ground with a helmet on top and some tags.
Realizing that he is losing control, Winter interrupts the ritual with an early dinner signal. Afterward, he visits Irwin in his cell and hints that if the general turns a blind eye to Aguilar's death, the guards will do the same when the prisoners salute each other and follow the military hierarchy. But Irwin sees right through the scoundrel's words and demands him to resign right to his face.
My resignation.
You're a disgrace, Colonel. A disgrace to the uniform.
Winter threatens to put the overconfident prisoner in solitary confinement for 6 months, but then comes up with a different plan. He pays a visit to General Wheeler, to whom he lies that Irwin has gone mad. He imagines that he is on the battlefield, commanding the prisoners and screaming in delirium. The colonel offers to transfer him to a psychiatric hospital, but Wheeler has great respect for his mentor, who had personally issued his shoulder straps, and goes to talk to him. From the first seconds, it becomes clear that the warden has been blatantly lying. At the same time, a letter to Irwin is placed on Winter's desk. The colonel opens it and sees a message that is addressed personally to him. Knowing that the warden would want to open someone else's correspondence, Irwin puts in a false ultimatum. If Winter does not resign right away, the prisoners will take the visiting general hostage. Wheeler himself declares that he doesn't care at all about the prison squabbles and is ready to get his friend out of there now on medical pretext. But Irwin can't leave the others behind. Then, the siren sounds, and the assault team lays the bewildered prisoners on the ground. Wheeler, too, gets roughly dragged off under his arms. The bluff works, and through such excessive measures, Winter displeases both prisoners and his upper management. Wheeler threatens the man to strip him of his position if the warden makes another slip-up. Winter responds by publicly reading Irwin's sentence to the prisoners. 10 years in prison for disobeying the president's order to leave the African country of Burundi, Instead, the general sent his platoon to capture a local chief, but the mission failed, and 8 of his soldiers were executed. After finishing his speech, Winter orders all those who saluted Irwin to be beaten up and sent to solitary confinement. After this, however, the general's punished officers are about to act even more decisively. Yates, who escaped their fate, tries to enter their circle, but the men do not trust him, and he leaves, holding a grudge. Winter notices this and recruits the guy as his spy, promising to reduce his sentence. Yates has been caught smuggling illegal substances in his helicopter, and he framed his accomplices.
Well, sometimes the apple does fall far from the tree.
While Beaupre and Cutbush are distracting the guards, Irwin uses the time to inform everyone of his plans. He reads out a charter with what is required of the warden, and it is obvious to everyone that Winter does not meet these. Even though they are locked inside, the prisoners can still take control of the castle. If they manage to do so, even for a short time, the warden's superiors are sure to find out about it. To achieve this, they must defeat the garrison, occupy the high ground, and raise their own flag. A suitable banner will be an upside-down US flag, a sign that the fort is asking for help from the outside. As the general clarifies the course of action, he realizes that Yates is working for the warden, but doesn't reveal it publicly. He speaks to the guy later, face to face.
This man is going to you because he sees the worst in you.
Irwin says the pilot could be a very valuable part of the team and asks him to do the right thing. As evening falls, a flag is brought to Winter's office, which they raise every morning. In the room is Yates, who says he must be released from prison on the day of the riot because the prisoners will not forgive him for snitching. The warden offers to keep him safe by putting the guy in solitary confinement, and the guy starts telling him the details of the plan. But the noise in the hallway prevents him from saying a word. Cutbush yells that the traitor is already dead and draws all the attention to himself. The prisoner is taken to the guard tower to keep him from informing the others. Yates, in panic, says he needs a little more time to find out everything from the general and leaves. In the morning, Yates returns to report that the prisoners have taken possession of Winter's flag and are about to hang it upside down. The surprised Winter discovers it is missing, and the prisoner confesses that he stole it himself while the guards were distracted by Cutbush's shouts. He refuses to reveal where he has hidden it and is sent to the punishment cell. Winter raises the alarm and orders the prisoners to be kicked outside and all cells to be inspected. The only thing they find there are shivs, and it turns out that everything is going according to Irwin's plan. They lock the guards inside the building in order to free everyone from the punishment cells and fight on the outside. Winter can't report the riot to his superiors because he would lose his position. So instead, Wheeler is informed by the inmates themselves, who make their way to the communications room. Catapults with Molotov cocktails prepared in advance go into action, and the gunmen in the towers are forced to flee. Right away, a gas canister flies in and blows up one of the towers. Then a boulder and an incendiary mixture are launched directly into Winter's office, smashing his collection and causing a fire. As the fire dies down, the warden notices an inscription on the rock.
Get that water cannon now.
Many of the prisoners are injured, but thanks to the perfectly thought-through strategy, neither a squad armed with shields and batons nor a water cannon can stop them. Upon learning that Wheeler will arrive in 20 minutes, the warden orders to call for a helicopter. Irwin, who has been expecting this, commands to shoot at it with a water cannon, which also has a harpoon in its muzzle. This allows Yates to climb up and capture the flying machine. The pilot descends to get the crew out of the aircraft and takes off to eliminate the sniper who took Aguilar's life. Seconds before the explosion, Yates is rescued from the crashed helicopter by Irwin himself. The pilot hands the general the banner, and the prisoners line up to raise it triumphantly over the prison. At this time, Winter enters the courtyard, supported by a squad with machine guns covering him from the roof. Their weapons are loaded with live ammunition, and anyone who refuses to follow orders will be killed. But on command, no one lies down. Winter approaches Irwin and says that their deaths will be on his conscience. Then Irwin himself repeats the order to lie down, and everyone immediately obeys. But in response to Winter's request to return his flag, Irwin declares that the flag is not the warden's property. He turns around and goes to the flagpole to raise it over the prison. The colonel orders the general to open fire, but by now his subordinates won't move either.
What are you doing? Do it now! Open fire! Do not let him desecrate that flag!
He has lost the respect of absolutely everyone, even his right-hand man, Captain Peretz. In desperation, Winter draws his gun and shoots the general in the back. While Peretz arrests his superior for doing this, Irwin proceeds to raise the flag, bleeding profusely. It turns out that the man didn't turn it upside down. The general was again several steps ahead of the dim-witted colonel.
You tell them nobody takes our flag. Raise your flag so it flies high where everyone can see it.
After some time, the convicts continue to build a new castle. On its stones, they have immortalized the names of Aguilar and Irwin. As always, look for the name of the film in the video description. In the meantime, let us know in the comments. Have you ever had a mentor or leader like General Irwin in your life? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video so that more awesome stories come out as often as possible.